Hello and welcome back. Now that we understand pointers a little bit more detail, I want to talk about character pointers, mainly how you can use character pointers to represent strings. Strings are character arrays, multiple characters, words. So we now know how arrays relate to pointers and the concept of pointer arithmetic. Very, very useful concept. These concepts can be very useful when applied to character arrays, strings, because now we can easily traverse a string character by character. One of the most common applications of using a pointer to an array is as a pointer to a character string. The reasons are one of notational convenience and efficiency. So using a variable of type pointer to char or char to reference a string gives you a lot of flexibility. So you're going to try to use character pointers as much as you can over character arrays. Specifically using character pointers to pass data to a function, all sorts of nice things like that. So let's look at an example that uses an array to copy a string. In this example, our array parameter is going to be a character array. You'll see that right in the function declaration. I want to compare this to a function that takes a character pointer and show you how the character pointer function is a lot more efficient. So in this example, we have two functions, one that takes an array and one that takes pointers. In the first function, copy string, we can go through the entire array using a for loop, I equals 0, from sub I, and we go all the way until we see the null character string, and then we increment our loop control variable. And then all you have to do is say to sub I equals from sub I. We're doing a direct assignment there. And then at the very end, after we've gone all the way until we see the null character, we add a null character to the end of our to array. Pretty basic. Now let's see how we do it when we use pointers. First, we declare two pointers as the function declaration in the copy string by just saying char star to char star from. In our for loop, we don't have to actually declare any variables because we have pointers and we just want to iterate until the from hits the null terminator. And then we can increment both the from and the to pointers. Because here we're doing pointer arithmetic, right? We're just adding 1 to the pointer, which is increasing its address by 1, which is getting the next character. And the next for loop line, we just dereference both the to and the from because we want to assign the actual value that the pointer is pointing to, the actual character, to the to pointer. And then at the very end, we add the null character to wherever the to pointer is pointing to, which would be at the end of the last address of the string for from, but now pointing in the to address. All right, it doesn't look too bad. I mean, you have a for loop, you basically have the same amount of lines of code, but you see the difference in syntax. You can see how you don't use subscripts, right? And you use pointers, use the asterisk. Again, really an issue of notational convenience. You don't see a big advantage here. But you can actually optimize this more to even get down to less code for when you use the pointers. So if you have a char array as a pointer, if you have an array of characters called text, you could similarly define a pointer to it and use the elements in the text. So here we could say char star text pointer. That's how you define a character pointer. If the text pointer is set pointing to the beginning of the array of chars called text, then you can just increment it by 1 using these incrementation, pre and post incrementation and decrementation operators. So this above, this plus plus text pointer is going to set the text pointer pointing to the next character in the text, which is text sub 1. So if we want to look in the next array, just like for integers, all we have to do is add 1 to it and we can get the next character. It's much more useful though in character arrays because you can easily manipulate characters one by one. If you do a minus minus text pointer, which is the decrementation operator, that will set the pointer to the previous character in the text, assuming that the text pointer was not pointing to the beginning of the text. Because if it was, you'll have these under bounds errors. If it was doing a plus plus to the end of the string, you'd have an out of bounds error. You always have to be careful, just like in integer arithmetic, to not go past the bounds for an array. But very simple. It relates very closely to when you do integer pointer arithmetic. Character pointer arithmetic is the same thing. It's just even more useful because now you can actually look at individual characters without using a subscript. So if we look at that previous example, and we can actually optimize it a bit more using pointers to make it even less lines of code. So now in our copy string, we do this functional declaration is the same as before. Create a couple pointers using the asterisk. But we don't use a for loop anymore because it was kind of pointless to use a for loop in the previous example because we didn't actually need to initialize a loop control variable. All we needed to do was exit a loop on a condition, and then we were actually using the incrementation and decrementation operators in the for loop, but we don't even need to do that. It actually becomes even much simpler here because if we use a while loop, all we have to do is look at the while loop and it will jump out if it's pointing to a null character because the null character is actually equal to 0. And the while loop, remember that Booleans in C are represented by integers. 1 is true and then 0 is false, or really 0 is false and then anything else is true. In this case, null character is 0, which is false, it's going to jump out. So all you have to do for the exit condition in the while loop is put an asterisk from. Right? What is that doing? That's dereferencing from to see what the value of that character is. So when we're to the end of the string that we want to copy from, we jump out. Otherwise, we just actually put our modification of our pointers right in there, to ++ from ++. Now, this is a post-incrementation operator. So what this means is the ++ is on the right-hand side of the variable. And when you do this, it means that the ++ actually you don't add 1 to it until after the statement is done. So what this is going to do, it's going to say *2 equals *from, and then after that statement is done, it's going to add to 2, 1, and it's going to add to from 1. If you had the ++ before the variable name, it would add to that variable before it executes that statement. And that would be a problem because we'd miss essentially the first element being copied in the string. But we don't need any more lines of code. We're doing an actual incrementation, pointer arithmetic, and assignment in the same statement. So we reduce the code by 1. So it's very, again, the notation is very simple. We're doing an integer arithmetic and assignment very easily. And then at the end, after we're done copying all the strings, we just add to the end the null character to the pointer, which we dereference. Right? Because the 2 is actually, while it goes through the loop, it'll be pointing to the last character. So it's just a little cleaned up a bit here. It shows you the power of pointers and how you can use pointers and arithmetic in the same lines. And with these incrementation and decrementation operators, these ++ and minuses, it makes it even quicker and easier. So it's more efficient as well. If we wanted to use these copy string functions, we could just create 2 character arrays. We can pass the character arrays directly to the copy string because the character arrays are pointers. Right? They are pointers, so we don't have to actually dereference them or add in addresses or anything. We could just say string2, string1. And so what this is going to do is it's going to copy a string to be copied to the string2 character array and then print it out using printf. I wanted to go through, an example of how you can use character pointers instead of character arrays and why they are sometimes preferred. We mentioned that it's sometimes programmer preference, where if you've programmed in previous languages like Fortran, you may be used to arrays, but if you haven't, you'll see the benefits of using pointers. Hope this was helpful. Thank you.